So we really do consider ourselves future focused. I'm sure you would agree with me that schools, like many institutions, don't really move forward quickly. We take, I think, what we do so seriously that to step out of the normal is a risk. So for us, Baldwin 2035 is really looking at the future of learning, what motivates our young people, what gets them to the point where in the morning when their parents are saying, you need to get to school, you need to get to school, the roles are reversed. And they're saying, Mom, Dad, I need to get to school.
You're listening to the smartsocial.com podcast. I'm your host, Josh Oakes. This is our District Talk segment where we interview district leaders to learn how they're keeping students safe on social media so those students can someday shine online. Now, let's get back to the interview.
Hi, I'm Shari Camhi, Superintendent of the Baldwin School District on Long Island in New York. We have 8 active schools with about 4,600 students spanning across kindergarten through grade 12.
Doctor, it's so great to have you here today on the podcast. I'm excited to dive in. Now, I have a rich history on Long Island. Many years ago, as I was probably one of the top 5 social media safety speakers, many school districts got together to say, Josh, come to Long Island. And I was so pumped because I remember I spent 2 weeks there and just had a blast. So many great family members, such a great community, just a great place. And I'll always remember that. Thanks for being on here today. Now, today's goal is to really inspire other school districts as we share tips to help school districts to navigate this digital world that we're in so we can help kids launch into their future. How do we teach them how to be safe on these digital tools so they become resilient, awesome students once they graduate outside of the school district and do all these great things in the world? The first question I have for you is, what's your biggest accomplishment as a school district over the past 1 to 4 years?
So that's an interesting time span. Let's start there, the last 4 years. I would say that in the last 4 years, we have really seen an effort to bring Baldwin to thinking in a future focused way. We've been working on this for quite some time, but in the last 4 years, I would say we've actually seen a lot of those plans that we put in place and a lot of the hopes for our future really take root. A lot of the work that we've done to get us to Baldwin 2035, which is our big initiative here, to really think about what does learning look like in the year 2035 and what do we need to do along the way to move us in that path.
I like that. You're thinking out 10 and a half years or so. What a great vision. There can be a lot in that 10 years. Let's actually stop and pause there for a sec. I'd like to double click on that, Doctor. What is the Baldwin 2035 vision?
So we really do consider ourselves future focused. I'm sure you would agree with me that schools, like many institutions, don't really move forward quickly. We take, I think, what we do so seriously that to step out of the normal is a risk. In some ways, I think the pandemic was a bit of a push. So for us, Baldwin 2035 is really looking at the future of learning, what motivates our young people, what gets them to the point where in the morning when their parents are saying, you need to get to school, you need to get to school, the roles are reversed. And they're saying, Mom, Dad, I need to get to school.
That's great. What advice would you have for other school districts to deal with a possible social media issue that may originate on a social media app like TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, but then creates a very real problem on one of the campuses in the school?
So we have embarked on the last 3 years on a media literacy program. We have all of our students in grades 6 through 12 that have embedded media and news literacy in ELA and social studies, as well as a standalone college level course at the high school level. The idea behind that is social media and technology really, in many respects, has a life of its own. And so when we are in schools with hundreds, in some cases, thousands of students all in one building, we don't have the ability to affect what happens when they leave our schools, but we can certainly influence the way they think about that. What we are doing is really aiming to teach our young people about true information versus fake information, And that includes using filters on social media and people saying the things they want you to hear as opposed to what might actually be common in someone's life.
Can you provide some examples of how your students in your community may have used their social media in a positive or maybe productive way that benefited themselves, the community, or the school district?
Sure. So I can think of two. I can think of more, but I'll share two. So in New York, our budgets go out to our communities to vote on, and our vote has to vote positively for our budget to pass the following year. So our young people, our PTAs, were really all promoting our budget on social media in support of our school system. So not only did it help us pass the budget, but it really does breed a lot of very positive vibe in the community. There's a lot of posting here on social media of all the amazing things that are happening. If it affects the way people feel about their schools in a positive way, that's a great thing. So we certainly do that, and we see our young people sharing that. The other area that I can think of, which is probably more powerful, is we have a group, particularly at our high school, called the YCLC, the Youth Collaborative Leader Group. And they are really engaged in social justice causes. They are really engaged in civics. The way they get their message out in large part is through social media. What better way, in some respects, to communicate with people outside of our school buildings of the amazing work that our young people are doing to change the world for the better?
That's terrific. Such good examples. What suggestions might you have for parents to encourage their kids to use technology in a positive way, both in the classroom and at home?
We need to take a step back first, right? We all have to pass a driver's test to be able to drive a car. But somehow, when our kids are moving up from fifth grade to sixth grade, it seems to be the gift that 10-year-olds are getting. They're getting a really expensive, powerful device in their hands. And there's no formal education on it. We spend a lot of time talking to our parents about how you manage that at home. One of the things that we see a lot when we see issues around social media, it generally happens on Monday because all of our kids have lived their lives on Friday afternoon, Saturday, and Sunday. And then they come into school on Monday, and maybe something happened online that becomes an issue we deal with on Monday. And so we talk to our parents a lot about how do you monitor what your kids are doing. And I don't mean spy on them, but legitimately have conversations with them about their actions, their behaviors on social media, but not only their own, other people's as well. I speak to our parents a lot about knowing that our kids are watching them all the time. And so what adults do online matters to kids because they are watching that all the time and they will mirror that behavior. If we are responsible and appropriate online, we have a really good chance of our young people being responsible online as well.
It really does start with the adults modeling behavior. I love what you said. What are your suggestions for other school districts to increase parent engagement, right? Get those parents in so we can have a rich dialogue about how they can model that positive behavior, get ahead of things, work with the district. In addition, are there any specific channels that you in your district are using that get the biggest turnout? Channels, events, or other ways that you're getting people engaged?
If you see the huge smile on my face, it's because in the last couple of weeks, we did two things that I can't even begin to tell you how many people showed up for these two events. They were both phenomenal. One of them was on a Saturday afternoon. We did something called Street Games 2024. Now, if you grew up in a city somewhere many years ago, you might remember street games. So those are things like hopscotch, jump rope, Scully, hit the penny, red light, green light, Simon Says, activities that only require a piece of chalk, a ball, and a jump rope. So we did that in each of our elementary schools. It was co-branded with our PTAs. We had on that day well over 700 kids show up on a
Wow.
Saturday between 3 and 5. And by the way, at 4 o'clock, it started to rain. Not a single person left. They all stood in the rain playing these games. The feedback that we got from kids was, can we do this every week? This is the
Mhm.
most fun I've had. And it was so simple and so easy. So that is going to become at least an annual event here. It will probably be embedded in our physical education curriculum so that kids are familiar with games and can just go out and play. And the idea is that you can go outside, you meet your friends, take a piece of chalk and draw a hopscotch court. So encouraging them to get out and just play. So that was one. The other thing we did, which was actually 2 nights ago, we had a STEAM event at the Cradle of Aviation Museum here on Long Island. And for that, we had over 900 people show up. It was just absolutely amazing and encouraging our young people to really learn about science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, to actually use those skills. They had so much fun. There was nothing but smiles on people's faces. And ultimately, I think if you have happy young people and you have happy families, you can probably mitigate anything that's put in your path that might be negative.
I like what you just said because you partnered with aviation museum and now all those families love it. I grew up around an aviation museum. So I just love that you partnered with outsiders to get kids engaged, took the school district outside into the real world with the safe space of your educators and your people and your parents. And I think that's a win. Very creative. So nice work on that.
It helps that we graduated a NASA astronaut here in Baldwin who recently came home from space. So we're really proud of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And to the districts that don't have a NASA graduate, you can say, we want a NASA astronaut. You can do whatever you want, which I think is so beautiful. So that's really inspiring. All right, doctor, the next question is the question everybody's raving about, the topic that everybody wants to talk about. But before we get to that, I want to thank the hundreds of school districts that are using Smart Social's live parent engagement evening events, modules to engage parents, and student modules to teach students how to be safe on social media so they can shine online. Thank you to the hundreds of districts all over in 29 different states for integrating our parent program in English, in Espanol, and Mandarin, and 14 total languages so that no parent's left behind when it comes to TikTok safety, Snapchat, Instagram. Our 450 resources are serving your communities. We're so grateful for all the support that you're doing and for making sure parents, not just on one social media safety night, are getting the information they need, but all year long, 54 live events, multilingual, everything. We're grateful for all of you for supporting us. All right, back to it, Doctor. The hottest topic everyone's talking about, and some people are scaring kids about it. Some people are excited about it. They're leaning in. It's all over the gambit. It's AI. And my question for you is, how is your school district approaching AI tools like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, and the such?
I think we're probably taking a little bit more of a conservative viewpoint on this. Schools tend to be on the reactive side, and we are making a conscious decision not to react. So we have a lot of professional development going on with our teachers to learn about all of those AI methodologies that you mentioned. We want to really be smart about this. We recognize that kids are using AI. We know this. And so we're really in the thinking phase, which some might criticize, but the truth is, whatever I say today about AI is going to be different tomorrow, right? We know how quickly technology moves. We're using this onboarding time to really think about it, to be smart about it, to figure it out, whatever it might be, but to be flexible. So a lot of learning happening right now, a lot of preparation for it. We know that when we started talking about this last year, the conditions this year are completely different.
Yeah.
And so we are kind of in the sandbox on this and trying to be deliberate, trying to be smart, trying to use the time to plan. I am certain that in a year's time, we'll be in a different place than we are now. But the job of a teacher is really hard. I know some people don't recognize that. They'd be wrong. It is a difficult job. Being an administrator is equally hard. And so adding something else for them to worry about, to do, to think about before I think we've adequately planned for that just doesn't seem fair. So we're just taking a little bit extra time to be deliberate about how we address AI. I will say, however, that I did announce to my community that if you see me saying something and you think to yourself, she would never say that, then you're probably right. She probably didn't say that, and think twice about what you might see and believe.
So true. Side note for all the other district leaders, administrators, and especially parents watching right now, I've announced to my team, we have dozens of people at smartsocial.com. I announced to them, I will never ask you to buy a gift card. So please, because there's a lot of games, please call me directly on my cell. You will talk to me. If anybody's in distress, if we're ever being forced to do something, it's not me texting you from a random number because that's how they typically do it. I do not want you to go to Target to buy a bunch of gift cards because I'm too busy in a meeting and I have to text you from a new number. That's not going to happen.
Mhm.
And I do think parents should be aware of that. Kids are calling all these new AI tools. And doctor, I think, I'm sorry to double click on this, but I do think it is a precautionary note to everybody. District leaders, have a talk with your team. And somebody at the front desk could say, oh no, but the superintendent said I need to buy this. And I think that's an important note. And I think you just hit it right on the head, doctor. I want to thank you for being on here with us today. Thanks for all your time.
You're very welcome. Thank you for doing the work that you're doing.
Thank you. To the district leaders, to the administrators who we love and adore, and to especially you parents, we are your cheerleaders when it comes to keeping your kids safe on social media so they can shine online and launch into their future, whether that means an internship, college, vocation, anything else. We're grateful for you. Thank you so much for letting us do that. And as it says on the title of my book, remember to keep it light, bright, and polite, both online and offline, because our kids are watching. I'm Josh Oakes, the founder of smartsocial.com and your host today. We'll see you on a future episode. Have a great rest of the day. Thanks for listening to our smartsocial.com podcast. I'm your host, Josh Oakes. This was our District Talk segment where we interview school district leaders to learn how they're keeping students safe on social media so those students can someday launch into their future by shining online. This episode was brought to you by our smartsocial.com VIP program. It's called the Very Informed Parent Program, which helps you engage your students with teen-led video lessons. Stay one step ahead with our premium parent newsletter and discover hidden features on trending apps on teens' phones and our 54 plus live parent and student-friendly events every single year. You can click on the link below to chat with one of our team members if you want a free pass to our VIP program to support your community with our smartsocial.com resources. And if you're a district leader who has a success story, we would love to feature you on a future episode. You can click the links below to reach out. Thanks so much for listening, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Have a great day.